Gracie Jiu Jitsu rocks. Welcome to the Gracie Jiu Jitsu Rocks podcast, a podcast dedicated to Gracie Jiu Jitsu and all things Gracie, including self-defense, competition, anti-bullying, women's self-defense and empowerment, nutrition, and most especially, the people involved in Gracie Jiu Jitsu. This podcast is for the average Joe. It's for anyone who practices, trains, teaches, or just loves to talk about or hear about Gracie Jiu Jitsu. We'll explore the lives of Gracie Jiu Jitsu practitioners, how they got involved in the art, and what effect it's had on their lives. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Welcome to episode 165 of the Gracie Jiu Jitsu Rocks podcast. As always, I'm your host, Marty Josie, and thanks for listening. Today, my guest will be Kevin Lucas, co-owner of New Hope Regeneration, and we'll get to that in just a moment. But before we do, let's start with our quote, and that is, "Jiu Jitsu and martial arts do not build character, they reveal it. We are all born with unmeasurable courage and determination, but it is as we go through the trials of rigorous training that we rediscover those gifts." And that is from Ricardo Almeida. All right, Kevin Lucas is the co-owner of New Hope Regeneration. And in this episode, we get into all things stem cells, and we discuss a number of things, including, just to name a few, the 5 things that have changed the course of human history, how allopathic medicine has missed the boat in many ways in the United States, how stem cells stimulate regeneration, talk about some of the most common myths about regenerative cells, your stem cell bank account, how platelets aren't the same thing as stem cells, what makes his company New Hope Regeneration different, his work in the jiu-jitsu community, and his work with veterans. Why it's really important to have the right mindset and expectations about stem cells, and much, much more. So I know you're going to really enjoy this episode. If you're like me, I mean, this is a very fascinating subject, and I'm glad we're able to bring some knowledge and clarification about regenerative therapy to you guys. So enjoy, and make sure after the interview you stick around for the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment. And now, without further ado, let's talk to Kevin. All right, I'm speaking with Kevin Lucas, who is the co-founder of New Hope Regeneration. So welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you so much, Marty. We've been talking about this for a little bit, and I'm excited that we finally get to get on the line together.
Same here. I'm really excited because over time I've gotten to know you and what an incredible person you are and the passion and drive you have for what you do. So I'm excited about that, but also just talking about all things stem cells. So it's going to be fun. So let's start by tell everybody a lot of people have heard the term stem cells, but don't really know what that is. So tell us a little bit about what they are and how they can help us.
Yeah, that is 100% true. You know, if anybody's heard about it, they tend to have either conflicting, confusing, or just information that's just incorrect. And so this is one of my most favorite parts is just helping people know that this amazing therapy exists. So just a really brief biology lesson. We're full of cells, right? We have white blood cells and red blood cells and muscle cells and nerve cells and, heart and lungs and liver and all these amazing pieces and parts in our bodies. Well, we have these unique cells called stem cells, and their whole role and responsibility, their singular job is to help the body repair and heal. A good way to think about this is that, the heart doesn't tell the lungs to repair when the lungs are having a hard time, or the spleen doesn't tell, a hamstring tear to repair. What does that? And the only cells that really uniquely can communicate to each and every tissue type in your body are stem cells. And that's why, I tell people we're living in the greatest time in all of human history to be able to see an improvement in our bodies, regardless of what age we are and regardless of what health challenges we're being faced with.
It is a really exciting time because just like if you had lost your leg years ago and you didn't have a lot of choices, and now there's so many things you can do with prosthetics. It's similar to where we are with regenerative therapy. It's an amazing time and a lot of options.
Yeah, I like to say that there's, 5 things that really have changed the course of human history in the medical world. The first one really is electricity, right? The ability to have electricity has given us tools and resources to be able to care for people, not having people, on dirt floors and not being able to, have to sew someone back up by a lamplight or candlelight. So electricity was one, running water is two. And then really the next 2 big ones for me, in my opinion, are anesthesia and antibiotics, right? People now today don't have to die from a simple tooth infection, or, I get a cut in my leg working on my yard by a, rusty something. And so antibiotics really were a game changer. And then anesthesia being a giant game changer, because now we can, do procedures on people in a safe way, or I should say a more safe way. And for me, in my opinion, I think regenerative cells, stem cells, are the next piece to that puzzle. And so they're allowing us to see improvements in people that before this therapy were literally impossible to facilitate. And I just pinch myself every day that, we get to be alive in a time and we get to do this and share this, good news with everybody all over the country.
Agree completely. You and I both have a health care background, and we'll talk a little bit about your background in a few moments. But yeah, we've seen, healthcare in this country for emergencies, it's amazing. Rather not go anywhere else. But as far as chronic degenerative diseases, we've missed the boat a lot. So with traditional allopathic medicine, so exciting that things like this are coming to the forefront that can really help people.
Yeah, 100%. And one of the things that we like to say is, man, if I am having a heart attack, if I get in a car accident and, get an arm lopped off, there's no better place to be than in the United States, but if I have those situations, backpacking in the middle of a South American country, I might not make it. But what a lot of people don't know about chronic and degenerative challenges here in the United States, it's actually one of the most dangerous countries to be living in regards to life expectancy, quality of health. We're actually, according to the World Health Organization, the United States ranks 49th behind Cuba in lifespan and quality of health while you're alive. We don't even make the top 10, the top 25, barely making the top 50. And that's a pretty shocking statistic to me. And so, as you just so perfectly said, our culture really struggles with helping people who are struggling with ongoing, long-term health challenges.
Yes, agree. We overuse the medical model and the medication. Not to say there's not a time for that, but that tends to be our biggest. Throw meds at it and see if that helps. But
yeah,
talk a little bit about, you were talking about how they can help. My understanding is that they can kind of go where they're needed, and talk a little bit about how far.
Yeah. Absolutely. And what I love so much about the regenerative therapy world for all of us, Jiu Jitsu practitioners and fighters, that it's very similar in the Jiu Jitsu journey, right? And what I mean by that is essentially a stem cell is the master cell in your body, and it's unlimited with what it can improve and change within your body. But we're going to make it really simple for everybody. And there's going to be 5 primary things that regenerative cells are. It's their sole job. So the first one is that they signal regeneration. So whenever a person has any kind of cellular breakdown whether that was from an injury, whether it's from an illness, whether it's from a pathogen, and the cells are torn or broken or overuse or underuse. The stem cell's sole job is to go to that area and to signal that body part or that region to start repairing again. And I'm going to kind of lump all this together with some really great jiu-jitsu analogies as we get to the end of these 5. So the first one is they signal regeneration. The second thing that they do is that they're one of the most, and really biologically, the most effective tool and resource to help manage inflammation. Those of us who've been on the mats, we tweak a knee, we tweak a shoulder, we break a finger, we get a knee into a thigh, and we see this big old, bruise or swelling or contusion, or the knee looks like a cantaloupe instead of my knee. Stem cells are really fantastic at decreasing that inflammation back to a more normal, healthy amount. The third thing is that they're immunomodulatory. So what that means is that they can help correct immune function. So some people can have a health challenge where their immune system is overactive, and then other people can have immune challenges where it's underactive. And we're seeing an epidemic today of people with autoimmune challenges, of a variety of different diagnoses. And regenerative cells have the ability to help bring your immune system back to a more normal level of function, regardless of which side of the coin you've gone on. So that's the third thing. Regenerative cells, they're antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial. So a lot of our clients who struggle with bacterial infections, sinus infections throughout the year, now instead of 3 or 4 or 5 a year, they're down to 1 a year. People who were catching every bug that was coming around, now instead of getting sick 3 or 4 or 5 times a year, they get sick once a year, and if they do, it clears up in a few days instead of a few weeks. And then the last thing, the fifth thing, is that they wake up your body's own dormant stem cells. So we all have stem cells in us at every given moment, from the time that we're conceived and to the time we die. But the challenge is every decade we get older, our own stem cells just go on vacation and they just stop working. And what all the research is showing is that when I get a round of regenerative cells added to my body, it also, those brand new troops now remotivate and reactivate my own troops and brings them out of hibernation. So it's pretty remarkable stuff.
I love how you say they remotivate and reactivate. That's like, so new blood coming in and getting everybody going, right?
Yeah, that's right. And a really good analogy that I like to tie this together is, and in the beginning when I said they signal the cells to do what they're supposed to be doing. So there's some misconception where people have been told that the stem cells are becoming, so when you get stem cells that have been donated from a healthy mother, healthy baby, they're like, oh, I'm getting little Johnny stem cells, and little Johnny's stem cells are going to become my new knee tissue or my cartilage or my heart or my lung. That is absolutely not what's happening. So what's actually happening at the biological level is that a stem cell just communicates to your own tissues that stopped doing their job. Imagine we're in a jiu-jitsu academy and it's a bunch of white belts just going crazy on each other. Nobody is framing correctly. Nobody's, setting up the pass correctly. It's just random chaos. We've all seen it. We've all been there with a partner who doesn't know what they're doing. And as if by magic, professor steps on the mats and order comes into frame, right? And just his presence or just her presence causes the students to start doing more of what they're supposed to be doing. And then when professor walks over to two people rolling and he's like, okay, put this elbow there, frame that there, put your left foot here by 2 inches, all of a sudden the technique works, right? And it's exactly the same in our body. When you have more stem cells in your body that are able to tell our bodies to get back on track the right way, we then can see repair, restoration, health that we had in our 20s or 30s. It's really pretty remarkable.
That's beautiful. I love the way you put that with the jiu-jitsu analogy of the white belts, and it brings order to the chaos, right? And some direction.
That yes. You just summed it up so perfectly.
Absolutely. And there's so many areas that this has helped different people. And I know we don't say this will help this specifically, but there's a lot of, almost miraculous results people have gotten. I want to share just real quick some of what I've experienced. I had the therapy not that long ago, a matter of months, and I was having a lot of knee issue, my left knee. Pain, but also when I would walk about every, well, I want to say every 5 or 6 steps, randomly, one step that I would take, I would get this jabbing pain on the inside of my knee, and it would buckle me. And
Yeah.
even though it wasn't every step by any means, I never knew when it was coming. So it really started affecting my confidence in walking. And also, of course, affect my jiu-jitsu and everything, because you're really just worried, how bad is this and how bad is it going to get? It's gotten 100% better. I mean, just totally better. Another thing I had is I do almost daily cold plunges and ice baths. And I used to get Raynaud's syndrome, or if people aren't familiar with that, sometimes your fingers will totally lose their color. They'll turn white afterwards from the cold. And the blood's not getting to those extremities or those digits. And that, I've experienced it maybe once in 10 times, and it's very mild. So it got to where it was almost every time, and it was getting kind of bad. So that has been, definitely amazing. And then something definitely unexpected. I had my labs drawn before I did it, and my liver enzymes, for the first time in probably 30 years, look really great. When I was younger, I did everything I could do to just completely destroy my liver. and even though I've been living a lot better for years, it's still, my liver never was completely like it was supposed to be as far as my labs, my enzymes. And finally, just recently, they look stellar, where they're supposed to be. So those are some great results I've experienced personally.
Well, first and foremost, I want to say praise God to that, and then congratulations. And this is another thing that I really want people to understand, is that what this therapy does is it's really, we call it God's medicine, because it has nothing to do with what a human invented and a human having to figure out like the perfect concoction. This is why allopathic care in the United States can be so dangerous, is that, and this is something that we really want people to know. There was the FDA essentially hired Harvard to do a study to figure out like what were the leading causes of death in the United States. Well, after they started compiling the data, they actually took the study away from Harvard, gave it to, I think, Johns Hopkins, and then Johns Hopkins found out like worse information. And essentially so they essentially pulled it from them, gave it back to Harvard, because the Harvard numbers were better than what Johns Hopkins were showing. So the leading cause of death and the number one reason people die in the United States is heart disease. The number two, the second most common reason people die in the United States is from cancer. And the third most common form of death in the United States is a term called iatrogenic disease. And what that means, it's a big old fancy name for saying medical mistakes cause the death.
Right.
So incorrect prescription giving, not the client overdosing by taking too much on their own, but an actual mess up by the medical team giving them the wrong medications, and then mistakes during surgery. So because of medical mistakes, 250,000 people a year die in this country every year. It's the third leading cause of death, and virtually nobody knows that information. So for us, this is why we're so excited, is that all we have to do is get these cells in you, and your body is going to know what to do, when to do it, how to do it, and it doesn't require a human thought process to figure out like, okay, I'm going to try to program the cell to go here, and we're going to try to make it do this, and now we have to amplify it by adding all of these other things to it. We're literally just adding more of these cells to your stem cell bank account, and your body is going to know exactly what to do and when to do it.
That's tremendous, man. It's amazing, because we're beautifully and wonderfully made, right? And if we get out of our own way a lot of times with what's keeping us unhealthy or sick, and but also we do lose our natural ones over time. We start out with a huge amount, and over time, and you get to my age, you've diminished them so much. So it just makes sense.
Those numbers are pretty shocking. And the best way to think about this is that it's just like a bank account. So if I told you today, hey Marty, next in 5 years you're going to make 10 times less money than what you're making right now, that would be a pretty alarming situation, and we would probably take action right away to try to remedy that. So in the human body, it's exactly the same. When you're first born, you come out of your mom's womb, you're a brand new baby, the first 5 years of life or so, every 1 in 10,000 of your cells is a stem cell. So you're literally a trillionaire of stem cells. By the time you're 18 years old, that decreases by tenfold. So you're down to 1 in 100,000 cells as a stem cell. But man, I remember being 18, I could eat Hot Pockets and Pop-Tarts and Cheetos and drink all sorts of stuff I wasn't supposed to drink. I could still go to 2-a-day practices and work in school and still function. Fast forward into my 30s, and then Hot Pockets, Pop-Tarts, and Cheetos really started causing a lot of serious issues on my GI tract and my gut and all sorts of other things. And that's because now 1 in 250,000 cells is a stem cell. And then that magic marker of 50, the golden years, you're now at 1 in 400,000 cells as a stem cell. So this is why a lot of our 50-year-old clients or people approaching 50 are like, man, I had to go from readers to full-on glasses, or I had to, change my prescription significantly. I get sick more often. When I get injured, instead of it being an issue for a few days, it's a few weeks. I get, all these challenges that are the commonplace, and that's only because of your stem cell bank account. It literally has nothing to do with anything other than, do you have enough of the cells in your budget to work on that project? And if your car breaks and you don't have the budget, you don't get to fix your car. If your body breaks and you don't have the budget of stem cells, it doesn't get fixed to the degree that it should. And it's literally that simple.
Yeah, that perfectly explains it and why we need it. Let's talk a little bit about, Kevin, about what makes your company unique. There's other companies out there doing this, and even some people even go to different countries for this kind of therapy. What makes yours different?
Yeah, so there's a few factors there, and the first thing that I want to say is I believe genuinely everybody is trying to do their best, but oftentimes business practices win out over what's best. You'll have companies that will choose what's best for the bottom line versus what's best for the client at the end. And this is the best analogy. I don't know if you've been to California recently, but gas in California is right now. I was just there last weekend, and it was like $6.15 a gallon, right? And I come back home to Florida, and right now we're $2.98. So what's the difference between gas prices being literally double the amount of money in California than in Florida? And it really truly comes down to business practices. So that's one piece to the equation that really makes New Hope Regeneration different, is that our goal, we genuinely believe that everybody deserves access to this life-changing therapy. And if it's price pointed to a position where only the 1% of the 1%ers can afford it, that doesn't help us help our communities and help our brothers and sisters, right? So that's one thing. Another thing too is that we're not we're not mixing it with a bunch of other things that we're not going to tell you what's in it, which happens in a lot of other places. And there's also within the United States, unfortunately, there's some offices that kind of do the dog and pony show and sleight of hand with language. So they'll tell you, hey, we're doing regenerative therapy, and they're giving you PRP, calling it stem cells, and they're not the same thing, right? That would be like me saying, hey, the heart and the lung are the same thing. No, they work together, but they're literally not the same thing, and I can't survive without both of them. And so, PRP or a platelet is not the same as a stem cell. And unfortunately, there's a lot of clinics around the country that will tell their clients, hey, it's stem cells and it's going to do the same thing. And so there's just still so much incorrect and literal misinformation and sleight of hand going. And because the average person doesn't know how to ask these questions, they just don't really know better. And then the testing. Really, what a lot of people don't realize is that the standards that the FDA put out on what's required, right? We got to make sure that there's no HIV, Hep C, the normal bloodborne pathogens. It's really kind of at a low level, and we do more than triple than what the FDA requires from a testing perspective, and that's why I believe we tend to see such high success and high results, where a lot of times people might have to go back to another organization patient 4 or 5 times, maybe 6 times to see a marginal level of change. And so, and again, other offices and clinics I definitely believe they're doing the best that they can do, but sometimes they just don't know that, and we've all been there with jiu-jitsu, right? Like we think we're maybe at a good jiu-jitsu academy, and then we go to a high level jiu-jitsu academy and it's like, holy cow, like this is at a whole other level. And it's the same thing in the world of medicine. People assume that, every doctor knows about everything, and they assume that every, lab is doing the best they can, and it's not true. Business decisions, unfortunately, are what dictate the way things go almost all of the time.
Yeah, and where you get your cells too is extremely important. I know when I first heard the term stem cells years ago, if I'm not mistaken, I think there was a big controversy because they were harvesting them from aborted fetuses or something like that. Is that right?
Yeah, and worse than that, they were also harvesting them from living embryos. So unfortunately, I personally could never do something that would harm another human life to help another human life. Like I couldn't kill the innocent, right, or harm the innocent to help someone's knee pain feel better. It's not something we could ever get on board with. Number two, in the United States, that's illegal. So you can't get those kinds of cells here. Thank God for that. But the research is still doing that, unfortunately. And then there are clinics out of country that are using embryonic cells or aborted fetal cells to try to facilitate regeneration and repair. And just think about the oxymoron behind that. Right. I'm gonna kill this to help this repair. It just at a base humanistic level, to me and my beliefs, that's not something we can ever get on board with.
Agree. And yours are only taken from healthy mothers, healthy babies, right?
Here's what I love about what you just said. Healthy mothers, healthy babies. This is one of the things that really sets our organization apart, is that, the FDA essentially just said, hey, you just have to make sure that the cells don't have any serological diseases, no bloodborne diseases, and then you're good to go. What most people don't realize is that a mom who doesn't want to cryo-freeze her umbilical cord and she decides to donate it instead of throwing it away, the mom could have been a meth head. She could have been a crackhead. She could have had, gestational diabetes. She could have been cardiovascular stress and distress and had all sorts of other illnesses. And if, the organization or the hospital say, hey, do you want to donate this umbilical cord? She can still donate it, even if she was really sick or really unhealthy, intentionally or unintentionally. And many companies will still utilize those products as long as they're not testing positive for the base serological diseases. And how we know this is that when you operate in the medical world, a lot of people don't realize that it's just like if I wanted to sell clothes or sell cars. If I want to start a car dealership, I'm going to say, hey, do I want to sell Chevy? Do I want to sell Audi? Do I want to sell, Kia? And then I go and I decide which company I want to go with. In the medical world, it's exactly the same way. So every office gets to decide which company they're going to go with. This is true from knee replacements to braces to, needles and syringes. And so when we were first touring laboratory facilities and looking at the specs of everything, it was really quite shocking to see how low the standards really were. And I actually wasn't even going to go down this route because I just was really kind of disheartened by the standards. They just were really poor, right? And then we came across the company that we work with, and I just was like, how is this even the same thing? It's the standards, the safety, the testing, the sourcing of the cells. When you said healthy mothers, healthy babies, there's certain socioeconomic factors we screen for. We do mental health screening. The mom has to agree to a full health history screening, so it's not just we take the umbilical cord at the end, but mom could have been unhealthy. And all of those combined are a big reason on why I believe we see the success rate with our clients that we do, even with just one round of therapy. And it's just a dream come true for us.
Well, I definitely applaud and respect your the high standards, the going above and beyond what's called for, and the integrity.
Yeah.
So you've really made quite a splash in the jiu-jitsu community. I know you recently went out to the Masters Worlds, and you've kind of been all over the place. Tell us a little bit about the work you're doing within the that important community.
Yeah, it really, for me, I have I have one primary selfish reason on why I am so obsessed with working with the fight world and the jiu-jitsu community. We can talk about that in just a minute, but really how it started essentially was my brother is a multiple time double gold champion in jiu-jitsu at every belt. He just received his black belt not too long ago, but blue, purple, brown, double gold
Wow.
at American Nationals, Pans, World Master Worlds, and tons of opens and tons of other tournaments from
What's
there.
his name?
His name is Jamie Riedinger.
All
He's
right.
my older brother by 9 months. Technically my stepbrother, but we don't use the step term in there. We're just brothers. And he's just such a competitor, and I just am so blessed to have him in my life. But he was in a situation where, as a purple belt, he had so much degeneration in his neck. Part of that is genetic. Like if you look at their family lineage, like the cervical and degeneration they have is just astronomical. But he had a neurosurgeon look at his neck, and at 40 years of age, they told him, or 39 years of age, they told him he had like the neck of a 70-year-old. And so he was at a point where he couldn't even hardly hold a coffee cup, holding his cell phone, looking at his cell phone, his hands would go completely numb. So imagine trying to train and you lose your grip strength and all these other things. Well, he was still kicking everybody's ass in spite of that. So we started doing regenerative therapy, and he was one of our first clients, obviously, being my brother. And I think within a 6 or 7 month window, he goes and on a tear at brown belt and wins literally double gold at every major event that was in the United States. And he's like, and he had been researching stem cells for like 15 years. And so he knew at some point, like as soon as it was available here in the United States, he was going to be one of the first ones in. And it just, changed, really helped him in some pretty profound ways. And so he's like, Kevin, like if this did this for me, like we have all of these other men and women that are just injured and broken and are not training, not because they don't want to, but because they physically can't.
Yes.
So that was a big motivation for me, is how can we help, get these guys and gals to stay on the mats and keep doing what they love doing.
That's so important, because so many jiu-jitsu guys and MMA, but jiu-jitsu guys, as they start getting older, they start questioning, can I keep this up? Can I stay on the mat, or for how long? And a lot of them don't, because as great as jiu-jitsu is, it's hard on your body. And yeah, so this is amazing.
Yes, it is. And for me, one of the big things, we're doing a lot of, we have a lot of academies around the country that have partnered with us now, and we're their kind of exclusive regenerative therapy resource, and it really hit me. I was talking with someone. And he was like, Kevin, I am debating about selling my school because I can't even get on the mat and show techniques anymore. My body is so broken that if I spend one night showing techniques, it takes me 2 weeks to recover. This is, a 8-degree, black belt, and just can't function anymore. And so we're like, hey, well, what else do you have left to lose? Number one, we can't hurt you. So if nothing else, you don't feel any improvements, at least, we can't hurt you, unlike surgeries or medications. So he's like, okay, gives it a go, and within 2 months, he's back to rolling like not just drilling and showing techniques, but actually rolling 5-6 days a week again.
Wow.
And when that happened, what I realized is that if we can help these, especially the coaches and the professors, we're seeing Jiu-Jitsu, in my opinion, offers something that nothing else in this country offers, maybe other than a really good church if you're lucky enough to find one. The community that a Jiu-Jitsu academy offers is unprecedented. There is no other place, in my opinion, where an entire family can be welcomed, no matter your race, no matter your religion, no matter your political views, no matter whether you're an athlete, a non-athlete, you are a super, human freak of nature, or you were a band geek, in junior high, right? Jiu-Jitsu literally is for everyone. And what these professors and coaches are creating now in the United States, in my opinion, is a home for anybody who wants to have another family and wants to have a family. So I was so compelled to keep these men and women healthy so they could keep coaching, because every day they get to be on the mats is another day that they get to keep providing this truly unprecedented atmosphere for people in their community.
Yes. Hats off to you, man. It truly has given hope to people? I know I'm as I get older, I'm kind of obsessed with staying as healthy as I can, so I can stay on the mat as well as healthy, in just general in life. But doing things like mobility, your nutrition, all of these help you stay healthy and stay on the mat. But this gives a lot of people that are really broken and have lost hope, new hope, just like
Right.
your name says. So.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And one of the coolest things for us is, when someone at Academy gets therapy and their teammates are like, holy shit, you've not inverted in 5 years and you just tapped me out from an inversion that you set up, and I've not had to protect myself from that in 5 years. And so it's so funny to see how other people start seeing, their teammates or their coaches or their professors getting better, and the power is in the testimony and witnessing the changes themselves. And so for us, we've done over 300,000 therapies the last 8 years. So you remember when LASIK first came out and there would be the billboards driving around town? Oh, Dr. Such and such has done 2,500 procedures or 5,000 procedures. And we're like, oh my gosh, that's so many. We have helped over 300,000 people with this therapy have their life transformed and restored. And 70% of our clients end up bringing in 3 generations of their family members because the changes are so remarkable for most people. And so, someone comes in and then, their spouse wants to get it, or then their parents want to get it, or their grandparents want to come get therapy because of the changes that they see. Or we do a lot of work with children. There's nobody that isn't a good candidate for this, and anybody can receive therapy. And to me, the power is in the fact that 70% of our clients bring in 3 generations of their family members. That's pretty special.
Wow. That's extremely special. Man, can't get better than that. You've also kind of branched out lately. I know you've got a few exciting things just coming up in the near future, which is the Mr. Olympia, as well as the Subversive Jiu Jitsu Combat League. So tell us a little bit about that.
Oh my gosh, we're so excited. As I just said, this therapy is for anybody who wants to, stay well, get well, be well, and have their body doing things it maybe hasn't done in a few years. But we're going to be heading down. There's a giant event happening next, not this weekend, but the following weekend, called the Olympia event. And there it's going to be a threefer. So the big yearly annual Mr. Olympia conference is going on, a big CrossFit at the same time, and then a big, huge BKFC, bare knuckle fighting championship event is going on. And so New Hope Regeneration is going to be down there hanging out and sharing the good news. But the thing that we just are super excited about, and we feel so blessed and grateful, is that we were actually approached by Subversive Jiu Jitsu Combat League here recently. They met us at Master Worlds and had seen the work and the results that had happened for a lot of our clients. And so they came and started talking to us. And so now New Hope Regeneration is one of their primary partners for the 2024 season for next year. So we can't wait to go to these awesome events that they put on. What Subversive is doing in the fight world right now, and in creating this cross platform for MMA and Jiu-Jitsu is just really spectacular. And the origins of the organization are just amazing and in line with us and how we want to help people. So, we do a lot of work with the military community and veterans, and that's really, I don't want to, try to tell too much of their story, but that's what drew me to Subversive. They have such a strong heart to help, veterans. And so as we shared that vision, we knew that the partnership was just going to be, it's kind of like brothers from another mother, right? And so we're super excited for that. There's going to be a ton of events coming up, and we can't wait to see you at these events.
Wonderful. Man, I love hearing about people working and making a huge impact with veterans. I have a heart for that as well, because, veterans went and put it all on the line, for their country and for the values and beliefs of the country. And it's so sad that when they come back, so many times they're just forgotten, right? Or they're struggling in various ways, physically, mentally, and just don't get the help they need. So anybody that's helping in that area, man, total respect, and love hearing that.
Well, I appreciate that. My wife served in the Air Force, and so for her that's a huge thing on her heart to be able to help people, and this is why we do a lot of work within that community. We actually just we started working with the SEALs Future Foundation. So anybody looking to be able to help service members, man, the SEALs Future Foundation and what they're doing is amazing. amazing. So I would encourage you to go look into their organization, and donate to them, because they're like literally, these guys were a bunch of SEALs realizing that, veterans were not getting what they needed, and especially, special forces guys, who were sent to go do some really hard things and really get hurt, and at a very high level, just literally weren't getting the best care that they should have gotten. And so they've created this organization to help people, find the best of the best, of mental health care, physical health, everything in between. And so we're so fortunate to get to work with them, and it's SEALs who saw a problem and decided to solve an answer, and we're just grateful that we get to be part of that organization as well. And I get to do this because of the sacrifice that all of these military members have made for us. And so it's the least we can do is to, go out of our way to help these men and women.
Beautiful, beautiful. So we've talked a lot about different combat type communities that you've definitely been making an impact in, but it's not limited to that. Just regular everyday people, the general public, can certainly benefit from these as well. One question I have, if someone's taking hormone replacement or TRT, does that preclude them in any way of getting stem cells?
No, absolutely not. And I love that question. So even though that, I usually do stem cells, and a lot of our clients who are really focused on their health and wellness, they'll, do we call it a tank of gas. We do a tank of gas once a year, every couple of years. I personally use hormone therapy replacement as well. As stem cells really are fantastic at a lot of things, but sometimes we still might need some other tools and resources. And so there's nothing that a person can do that is gonna really decrease the efficacy of the stem cells, and there's nothing that essentially counteracts a reason on why a person should come in and add regenerative therapy to their toolbox. It's only going to help all those other things also work better. We have a lot of guys who see outstanding things in their blood work. As you mentioned, you saw some changes in some things for you. 86% of our clients, within 3 to 6 months after therapy, their medical doctors have to adjust medications for them. Meaning they got to decrease the amount of meds they're taking, decrease the volume of the prescription, and or are even taking them off of medications. This is the best part to this whole process, is it's not just for fighters, right? It's known in the fight community because it works, and it's what, gets people repaired more quickly and back on the mats. But we didn't start off in the fight world, right? We've been doing this for 8 years, and my background is in neurobiology, and pain science and embryology. And so within our clinics, with what we used to do before, I worked with a lot of Parkinson's patients, MS patients, dystonia patients, and special needs kiddos. And so when I realized, the big aha for me was, holy cow, I'm essentially just helping them manage their decline. It's like, okay, if I put some duct tape on here, I might get, 100 more miles out of that bumper before it falls all the way off. But we weren't actually genuinely repairing anything. And that's why I made I completely stopped doing everything else that we were doing that was helpful. And now all we do is regenerative therapy, because now we're literally seeing, improvements and reversals in things in people that were told could never get better. And it's everybody. We do therapy for kiddos, people, who are 2 years old to 102 years of age. There's nothing in between. And we do therapy for a lot of healthy people, right? And this is the analogy that I like to use, is that if I'm working and I'm making enough money to take care of my family, and we're okay, for me to then say, well, no, if my work were to offer me $1 million or a $10 million bonus for the year, and I said, nah, I make enough money, I'm okay, I would be really pretty silly to not take advantage of that bonus. And it's the same thing. When you get a round of regenerative therapy from New Hope Regeneration, it's literally like getting a $10 million bonus that your body now gets to use on all of these projects. And even if you were okay, a 50-year-old body that's mostly healthy, we can still agree it's not the same as a 40-year-old body.
Yeah, for sure.
But what if your 50-year-old body now can start doing what you were doing in your 40s again? Now, I want to be clear. This is not like Wolverine from the movies. It's not like you can get shot and your body spits the bullet out on its own and it magically heals in 3 seconds. It's not that kind of movie magic. You're not going to be flying around and you're not going to live forever, right? Sometimes the superpower I keep hoping for is teleportation, because I travel so much. I put on about 300,000 flight miles a year. I wish I could just teleport instantly to my next location. That's not happened yet. Outside of that, it's really unlimited with who we can work with, and it's not up to us on what's going to change. That's you and your body are going to decide what projects it's going to focus on and in what order. And as long as you could be good with that, this is a good fit. The only time that we tell people no is if you were to say, Kevin, the only way that I would consider this successful is that you have to guarantee that in 8 weeks my right knee is 50% better. I'm going to be the first one to tell you then, Marty, this isn't a good fit, because the only thing any medical person or scientist should ever tell you about stem cells is we don't know what order and what project it's going to pick first, second, third, and fourth. And unfortunately, there's a lot of clinics around the country and out of country that will say, hey, if you do our treatment protocol, we can guarantee your results are going to last for 15 years. And, this is going to happen and that's going to happen. And that's where the FDA gets really frustrated with people, because they're saying things that they shouldn't be saying, and they're saying things that are not true.
Yes, because they're guaranteeing that it's going to target a specific area in a specific way, right? Instead of, like you said, the cells have intelligence, and they're going to go where they're needed the most.
Yeah. Can I give you just a really brief example of that with a patient we just had? So we had a guy come into us 3 weeks ago. He originally came into us. He was having some really strong knee issues and some really strong GI issues. His a lot of gut stuff. Well, we just had a follow up with him, because that's the other thing that we do, is that we're not a stick you and send you clinic. So we follow up, we engage with you over the course of the next 12 months after your therapy. But he just had met with his neurologist at the Shands Institute, which is a big neuro facility in Florida. Well, come to find out, they had been tracking all sorts of lesions on his brain for the last 10 years, a decade. Literally, they have 10 years of data looking at what's going on for this guy. He just had a brain scan last week, and then he just got the results, and the doctors came into the room and reset the computer because they literally thought they were pulling up the wrong person and the wrong file, and that it was mistaken. He was at a point where the neurosurgeon was like, look, I don't think we need to see you for a few years now, because all this has really improved so dramatically. If we were to look at this, it almost looks like none of these are there. And so now he originally wanted to see, really big changes in his GI tract. Now, it's only been 3 weeks, mind you. In 3 weeks, these lesions that had been on his brain for these 13 lesions that had been on his brain for a decade are now almost all the way gone. And they were just so blown away. And so these are the things that can happen. I might have a client that comes into me with a knee or a hip or a shoulder issue, but there's some other more important organ function issues that are going on, and the body knows what's best. If I'm trying to defend, if I want to get an arm bar, but I'm getting choked out, and I'm hyper focused on an arm bar, but I can't even have the wherewithal to realize I got to defend the choke, nothing else matters, right? Because I'm going to be asleep. And your body is exactly the same. Your body knows what's the best order. So unfortunately, there are times that we will say no someone for therapy, not because it can't help them, but they have the wrong mindset about how this is going to work. And unfortunately, other offices around the country or around, in out of country, say things that they just shouldn't be saying.
Yeah, that's too bad. And going back to my own, the liver, even if it hadn't helped my knee specifically, which I'm glad it has, just making sure anything I can do to help my liver be as healthy as it can, because that affects your whole body, obviously. So 100%. That, so you're going to get major return from that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so let's switch gears a little bit and tell us how you got involved in jiu-jitsu, how drawn to jiu-jitsu, and what that journey's been like for you.
Yeah, well, it was an interesting go. So I've been a martial artist my whole life. I trained some other stand-up styles. I was getting ready to test for my black belt, my instructor black belt in a stand-up style, and my school imploded. The drama and all the stuff that happens in the martial arts world. So I didn't have a home for a while, and I was like trying to decide what I wanted to do. I was traveling a lot, and it just kind of put my martial arts career on the back burner. And then my brother, Jamie, had really been training, jujitsu, and he'd been trying to get me to come over for a while. And I was just like, no, I really like what I'm doing over here, and I love the weapons work and all the other stuff. And so finally, like, my school imploded, so I really feel like it was a God thing, and so he stopped the the other thing. There wasn't really replacement where I was living at the time, so I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go start doing jujitsu, and I really enjoyed it, but it was a whole other, that whole, even though that I have a lifetime of martial arts experience, you get on the jujitsu mat the first time and you realize you can't swim in an ocean full of sharks, and I was just so fascinated by that. Had a really interesting situation. I get my, after 3 or 4 months or whatever it was, I get my first stripe. The celebration at this academy at the time when you get your a rank is that then the gauntlet, everybody higher rank than you gets to throw you or do a takedown or whatever. Well, this guy goes to do a takedown and he blew out my knee. 300-pound giant muscle dude. He was purple belt at the time. He came up, like, went to pretend to shake my hand. He didn't actually shake my hand, and then went to go shoot in for a single leg, and all 300 pounds and I'm not like, I know positioning, right? And the dude just unfortunately just blew out my knee, and so I was off for 6 months, and then started training again. I was non-load bearing. I couldn't even put, and this was before stem cells, so I couldn't even put weight on my knee for 4 months because of the way that the fractures and the way that it was blown out, because we were trying to avoid surgery. And so got through that, started training again, and then I moved. And then I had some really negative experiences in the jiu-jitsu world. I travel so much, and so I was trying to do drop-ins at different academies, and sometimes there's some schools that are just not very welcoming, to drop-ins, right? And I don't know if anybody, most of us can relate to that.
Sure.
Not every school is super welcoming to visitors, and I just kind of got a bad taste in my mouth, and was just like, I'm going to take a break for a bit. And then my life was changed. I met a couple of people that, that create the most amazing environments, no matter what belt you are, no matter if you're a visitor, no matter if you've trained at other schools. And that really is what brought me back to jiu-jitsu. Ricardo Tubbs, Professor Ricardo Tubbs in Chesapeake, Virginia. My brother started, his school and teaching, and created such a welcoming, open, loving environment. And then Bruno Bastos, Ricardo, Bruno, and Jamie just, really helped me, get excited about, training again. And then since then, I've met so many more people, and jiu-jitsu is changing, and we're now seeing, more people realizing that, just because maybe you don't want to compete and like actually literally fight people, doesn't mean that you still can't be there and train.
Absolutely.
there. So that's what's been so great for me in my journey. I'm still definitely a hobbyist. One of my friends teases me. I get a stripe every few years. But, for me, I like to train. I really do love the mental dynamic to jiu-jitsu and the thinking capacity to it. But, my business has my heart, right? My helping people be restored, yes, and healed and transformed is where I spend 100 hours a week. And so I definitely am a hobbyist, but I love it. And we love helping people who do want to do jiu-jitsu at a higher rate get to do that because their bodies are working again.
No, I think that's important. Too many times if someone says I'm a hobbyist, they say it with a little bit like, I'm not quite as worthy, but they are. I mean, there's more people doing jiu-jitsu as a hobbyist than serious competitors.
Correct.
And jiu-jitsu is for everybody, and it's great. People that want to compete, more power to them. I admire, I respect them. I've done that. Not interested in doing it now, and there's plenty of people that just do it for, like you mentioned before, the camaraderie or the self-growth or just the confidence of being able to take care of themselves, protect themselves. So, that's just as legit, and that's what's this therapy can help not only the world-class competitors, but everyday Joes who are on the mat as hobbyists. So
Yeah,
Awesome.
and I'm so grateful. And in the last 3 years in particular, I've really know because I'm in academies at multiple times a week in multiple parts of the country, and so seeing the shift that's happened the
Mm.
last 3 to 4 to 5 years in particular of how now they realize like, hey, we really got to make a good space for everybody,
Hmm.
and that has just been so like I literally am covered in goosebumps or god bumps thinking about this because now, and this is why jiu-jitsu is exploding, right?
Yes,
I mean,
agree.
literally at an unprecedented exponential level. We're seeing these academies explode because they really truly now are creating a home for anybody who wants to be there.
I was fortunate that for many years I've been part of a couple of different associations that really have that philosophy of it's for everybody. You're there to help each other grow and learn, develop. It's not the dog eat dog, beat down. But I've certainly seen that, and much more in the past. But like you said, in recent years, it's been really cool and refreshing to see that shift to where more and more associations and schools, academies are of that mindset. Like, look, you can have your tough guys. You can even have like serious competitor class that's separate. But for the general public, let's have a structured curriculum and let's make everybody feel welcome and
Yeah.
help everybody grow and learn and develop. So
Right. Yeah, we recently launched a new YouTube channel called Inside the Fight, and we just brought a bunch of world champions and academy owners to Dallas to our film studio to film their experiences of what's changed for them because they've gotten regenerative therapy with New Hope Regeneration, and it's just such a blessing to get to see all of these men and women just getting to live their dream and their passion because their bodies are allowing them to be back on the mats without having to pay for it again. And just the heart, we took everybody out to dinner afterwards, and all of these people all own their own academies, and you would have all thought they were part of the same organization. And I'm just getting ready to go on the Fuji cruise here in a few weeks that Fuji Mats and is putting on, or the Fuji company. And I went last year, and just seeing the togetherness and the jujitsu family idea. I go on and on and on forever about
yeah,
it. It's
I
just
hear you.
heartwarming beyond measure.
That's great, man. That's great. Before we bring this to a close, I know you've mentioned a few times briefly your faith. So will you share a little bit about how that is important in your life?
Yeah, for me, here's where I came to my place in my faith. It really dawned on me that I didn't even create me. Right? Like a lot of times, there's all this ideology about like you create your own life, and yes, we can make decisions that are better for us or worse for us. Definitely the case. But as I've always believed in a higher power and a higher being of some capacity, for me, building my relationship with Jesus really transformed every fiber of my life, my family's life. My kids were adults when all of this kind of happened, and watching them build their own relationship with Jesus has just been amazing. And but more importantly, getting to watch how we've exploded. The more we announce and the more we declare, our faith to our belief, the more we grow, and the more people we're able to help. And I can't tell you how many times, we're in an office with a client, and we get to pray with them or over them before they get therapy if they want that. And all of these things are things that can't happen in a normal medical setting. And so for us, it's just been a blessing beyond measure to get to be in the healthcare world while still holding true to our faith and our belief. And for those that don't have that same belief, fantastic. Like we can respect everybody where they
Sure.
are. But to be able to operate in a manner where I don't have to hide that, or I have to, step aside from that, or is really just a level of freedom and a level of empowerment that other people then get to experience as well. Because, quite frankly, we're living in some challenging times where, divides are pretty strong, and people are having to, renounce, their faith or their belief to be able to get any kind of airtime or TV time or whatever. And we just get to do the opposite. it. We tell people, like, before any of our seminars or any of my stuff, I say, hey, I'm going to say a quick prayer. And if that's not good for you, you can just step out of the room for a minute and come back in when you're ready. So the fact that we just get to, keep God center point of what we're doing is just the most amazing thing. And I'm grateful beyond measure.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, my friend. So anything else we should know about regenerative therapy and anybody that you care to do a shout out to?
Yeah. So ultimately what I want people to know is, number one, you are not your diagnosis. So when the medical team speaks the language of this is how it's going to be forever, you're always going to be this way, it's never going to get better, it's only going to get worse, I want you to know, if there was one thing that I can impress upon you, is that is just completely not true. After doing this for 300,000 people now, all of my clients are doing all of the things that their experts told them that they were never going to get to do again. Many people were told, you're not going to live past this many months. And I mean, it's so shocking to see that. So we want you to know you're not your diagnosis. Number two, I want you to know that there is hope for healing. When your body has enough of what it needs, it can change things at such a profound level. And just think about it. If you got a $10 million bonus to your bank account, what could you do with that in your life? And in your body, it's the same thing. And number three, the rest of your life really truly can be the best of your life. I mean, I have 70 and 80-year-olds that are more active now than what they were in their 40s and their 50s. And that's the truth. And so if we could just leave people with that it's simple, it's safe, it's affordable, it's effective, and anything can change if you give the body enough of what it needs. That's what we get really excited about. And I just want to really truly thank my wife. One, I want to thank God, and two, I want to thank my wife. She puts up with me being gone so much, sharing the message, but really just the jiu-jitsu community as a whole. We're just so grateful at the relationships, Marty, people like you that, I get in contact with, who have the same heart and the same mission to help people. I wish if I could mandate something instead of mandating a particular a poke of a thing. I mean, I would maybe mandate everybody get stem cells if I could do that. But outside of that, if I could tell everybody to spend 1 year in a jiu-jitsu academy, and your life would change forever, like that, I would mandate that. I would make every human being have to spend at least 1 year doing jiu-jitsu in a jiu-jitsu academy, and how it would change you and your life and your family's life. That's what I want people to know. Jiu-jitsu, is man, there's something to it that's unprecedented.
Agree completely, 100%. I gotta say, I'm a little jealous of you right now because I know you're sitting outside in the Florida Panhandle, at your home in the Florida Panhandle, and that's where I'm from originally and miss being there, so I'm very jealous. But hats off to you, my brother. You've impacted so many lives, and much respect. I hope you keep blossoming and fostering all these relationships and really continuing to touch lives on this level. So respect.
Thank you so much. Yeah, we're grateful beyond measure. Again, it's not me. It's definitely it's God's medicine. We just got to get more of it in you, and it's really because of people like you that allow us to help share the good news and share the message and let people know that this is available. And just imagine you were living in an area and someone was telling you that airplanes didn't exist. I mean, that's the era we're living in, or electricity wasn't real. I mean, we're living in a time period today where we can now help your body get back on track at a level that nothing else can do. No supplement, no workout program, no pharmaceutical, no surgery, can help your body do to the degree at which regenerative cells can. And that's what we love most, is seeing people back on the mats. And we have a really kind of cliche saying. We say, heal faster, fight harder, and compete for longer. And that's the truth.
Love it. Well, I'm going to put links in the show notes for people to learn more about this important therapy. And thank you for letting us know more about you as well as New Hope. And like I said, this important therapy. New Hope is such a great name for this. And anybody wants to learn more about this, I'll put a link in the show notes. You can follow it. You can set up a time to speak with someone about this and learn more about it. So we'll definitely do that.
Fantastic. Thank you, Marty. And we look forward to talking to anybody. We do free consultations that are complimentary, just so we can educate you and learn about your unique health situation and see how we can help you meet your health goals. So thank you so much, Marty. And this was a great, one of the best interviews I've ever done. So thank you so much for being such a great host.
My pleasure, my friend. And much health and happiness continuing in your life. All right, really enjoyed that conversation with Kevin. What an interesting person he is and doing some amazing work. Make sure to check the link in the show notes if you're interested in finding out more about stem cells and regenerative therapy. All right, this episode is brought to you by Breathing for BJJ. And Breathing for BJJ is a 31-day online video program that I spent 2 years in developing, and it's designed to transform your jiu-jitsu experience. You know, there's nothing more important than your breathing. It makes a profound difference in your jiu-jitsu experience. Optimizing your breathing takes your jiu-jitsu experience to a whole new level and has a huge impact on your performance. Learning to regulate your breathing can completely transform your jiu-jitsu experience. Being able to slow your breathing down when you need to, create energy when needed, breathe when in uncomfortable positions and situations, and to find the calm within the chaos are skills you need to master to create and achieve the optimal jiu-jitsu experience. This program uses a biomechanical approach to actually target and strengthen your specific breathing muscles, creating efficiency and effectiveness in your functional capacity to breathe. It's time to make breathing the foundation of your BJJ. And you can find out more at www.breathingforbjj.com. Next up is the Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment.
Greatness is a decision. Failure is a decision. Winning, losing, mediocrity, these are decisions that we make. None of them can exist in your life without a green light given by you. They require your approval. Now, this isn't to say outside circumstances don't play a part, right? Of course they do. But they're merely pieces. It's up to you to look at what's in front of you, the good and the bad, and put it all together to tell the story that you want to tell. See, failure is a decision because it's a stopping point. Failure doesn't mean that you stumbled or made a mistake or had to pick your pride up off the floor. No, failure means that you stopped. You decided that for one reason or another, moving forward simply isn't worth it. That the tough moments outweigh the great ones, and so you decided to settle. But the reality is, everyone deals with hardship. The differentiator is that some people decide to let it consume them and keep them down, while others decide that the unfortunate events will be nothing more than speed bumps on their way to greatness. It doesn't matter what stands before them because they've already chosen excellence. They've chosen to take the negative and turn it into the necessary ingredients to move forward. And that's one of the greatest decisions that one can make, simply to move on, to find a way. Because if you're willing to persist, there will be no end points, only new opportunities.
And that's going to do it for this edition of the show. As always, I thank you for listening. Hope you're enjoying the show. Please like and follow us on social media and help us spread the word by reposting our posts and telling others about the show. You can leave comments on the website at www.GracieJujitsuRocks.com. You can also go to iTunes and leave comments as well as rate the show. And we would appreciate a 5-star rating which helps us with our standing in iTunes. You can also leave comments on our YouTube channel. If you have suggestions for the show, please don't hesitate to give those. We always like feedback and suggestions. Okay, that's going to do it. So until next time, this is Marty Josie, and I'll see you on the mat.